Attend the monthly meeting of the Health and Community Committee, which will be a hybrid meeting conducted remotely via WebEx and physically in the Council Chamber, Guildhall, on Thursday, the 13th of February 2025 at 4 p.m. Just commence with attendance. So, Alderman McMorris.
Online.
Alderman Montgomery.
Here.
Alderman Wilkinson. Councillor Paul Boggs.
Shocking.
Councillor Boyd. Councillor Clark. Councillor Deeney.
Apologies.
Apologies. Councillor Duffy.
Shaw.
Councillor Farrell.
Here.
Councillor Harkin. Councillor Heaney.
Shaw.
Councillor Hutton.
Shaw.
Councillor McDade.
Here.
And Councillor Taney. Thank you, members.
Thank you, Karen. Alderman Wilkinson and Councillor Harkin, we've just noticed that you've joined online. Thank you. I would like to remind everyone physically present at this meeting or in attendance remotely that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet and will be capable of repeated viewing. This broadcast may be terminated or suspended in accordance with our protocol. Due to your attendance at this meeting, you are consenting to be filmed and to the use and storage of those images for broadcasting or training purposes and for the purpose of keeping historical records and making those records available to the public. Members and approved speakers are reminded to only have their mics and cameras on while speaking at the meeting and to use the chat facility to highlight a request to speak. A copy of the Council privacy notice could be found on the Council's website. So next up, we've got declarations of members' interest. If anybody wants to declare now or declare as we go through the meeting. Nobody? Nobody online. Okay then. So we'll move on to the next bit, which is chairperson's business. I have one piece of chairperson's business and it's just an update from Angel Eyes. People will remember that there was a motion brought around the QR codes being promoted locally around the restaurants in the Dairy City area in Strabane. We've had an update from Angel Eyes regarding their operational plan for the rollout of the QR codes, and if we're happy enough, we're going to invite them into this committee just to give us a presentation and an update on the progress so far. Happy days. All right, then we'll move on to business now then. First up, we have matters arising from the open minutes of the Health and Community Committee held on Thursday, the 16th of January, pages 5 to 20. Any matters arising? Nope. Happy days. All right, so next up we have the Derrick Active Project and Realm Phase 2 engagement feedback, and that's Karen. Thank you.
Members, I'm presenting the report just in the absence of the GI manager this afternoon. So the purpose of the report is to provide an update to members in relation to stakeholder engagement and community consultation for the Diamond Regeneration Phase 2 of the Derrick Active Project in Castle Derrick. Members will know that December's meeting approval was given to undertake the engagement exercise, and some 35 attendees were present at the consultation event on the 10th of June. These represented business owners, householders, and stakeholders from within the statutory sector. The observations arising from the consultation are laid out at section 3 in the report. So there are some issues with regard to concerns regarding the paving surface to be used and the treatment of that surface, particularly in inclement weather. The seating preferences, where there's a combination of timber top seating and general stone seating. There is a preference from a visual perspective that will be timber top seating. Parking and accessibility issues, particularly in relation to disability access adjacent to a number of commercial premises in the town. Lighting and safety concerns, particularly in terms of the potential lack of contrast with the paving surface. Bus stop adjustments, public toilets placement, and there still remains some indecision on the best location for the public toilets within the town, and concerns particularly around the proximity to residential areas and potential antisocial behaviour. Planting and green spaces, which has been welcomed with the addition of planting and trees within the area. Online and email digital feedback reinforced some of these concerns, and in general, because you're aware obviously of the planning decision or recent planning decision in respect of the 3G pitch at Mitchell Park, there was strong support for both the proposed amenity works within the centre of town and also for Mitchell Park. There are no known issues at this time. And obviously green spaces and connectivity contribute positively to the climate action agenda. So members to note that the UK funded programme, which is the words replacing the LUF programme, have confirmed that there is an extension to the deadline of March 2026. And we now work with them to agree and profile the budget expenditure within that. So members are asked to note the updated position of the project and to endorse officers to progress the further IST works which required for outputs to the public realm, including appointing the contractor. Officers will also progress all other elements of the enhancement works to a state of readiness for delivery. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Councillor Boggs.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Karen, for the report, and also the Green Infrastructure Manager for writing up the report. Happy to propose the recommendation at 5.1 on behalf of Sinn Féin. And I think it's important that we just note how important engagement like this is, not just on this project, but for all projects that go forward. I suppose just a question in relation to this kind of engagement, Karen, and how, and maybe the GA manager is best placed to answer, but how do we take it forward in the other projects, the learning that we get from it? And I look particularly at 3.3 in relation to slippery paving concerns. That has been an issue in Strabane Town for many years, as well as what has been raised here in this report. But yet and all, whenever I attended the public consultation for the Strabane Town Public Realm Scheme, the first thing that was on the board for people to see was the same slippery material that was used in the main street and Castle Street in Strabane being proposed, and I know it was only early consultation, but being proposed for use again whenever we know of all the ills of it. And I assume that it's the same that's being talked about here in this public engagement. So while the engagement is important, what do we as a council take from it whenever we are applying it to other projects going forward? But welcome the report and the engagement and all the progress made to date in relation to the DARG. It's looking fantastic. Thank you.
Members, I'm happy that our GI team bring back the technical answer, but we do have a learning log in relation to all of our capital projects. So if there are concerns about the specification of any particular project, that should be shared by our design team colleagues across the full range of their team. So this has been highlighted at a very early stage in this specific project, and there's obviously an opportunity before we extend the scheme to make sure that we can take corrective action where we need to. Thanks.
We need a seconder there before Alderman Montgomery. Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity. I'm not a member of committee, and thanks, Karen, for the report. Clearly, I welcome the report, and I think congratulations has to be given to all involved in the consultations that have been ongoing. It's been elongated, to say the least, at times. Mitchell Park is beginning some sort of progress, and that's extremely welcome. The one element within that I would want to hone in on again, and Karen, you'll be aware of this, 3.8, the public toilet displacement. And there has been a desire that would be linking in with the Castle Park developments. Is there any update on that going forward? Thank you, Chair.
Members, we're scheduled to have a further board meeting. We haven't had the opportunity since the funding extension was announced, but the plan was to refine the site selection and to begin the preparatory work for getting planning approval and to look at some initial design element and costing. So that will move forward, and I suppose the course of action in terms of the site selection will be fed back to members and the community through the two steering groups. Thanks.
Through you, Chair, thanks for that, Karen, and it's good to know it's still in there in the mix and being considered. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Farrell.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks, Karen, for the report. Just like to welcome the report and support the recommendation on behalf of the SDLP. Obviously, Derg Active was a successful application to the Levelling Up Fund. It's going to see substantial investment in Castle Derg. And I think what this shows us is that Council is serious about engagement and consultation with local communities. And I hope that the findings and the suggestions from that exercise are incorporated in the final plan. So thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any other indicated speakers. So that was proposed by Councillor Boggs and seconded by Alderman Montgomery. So moving on to the next piece of item of business is the draft consultation response to the PHA's draft corporate plan, and that is Seamus. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. And the purpose of the report is to make members aware that the Public Health Agency is consultant on the draft corporate plan 2025 to 2030. An officer response to the consultation has been provided for members' consideration and endorsement.
Thank you, Seamus. Councillor Duffy.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Seamus, for the report. I was reading through it yesterday, and I have to say it's really comprehensive, the response to the consultation. And I particularly welcome some of the additions that have been made, particularly around the inclusion of violence against women in care, so making sure that's included within the plan, but also then homelessness and health inequalities. It's really good to see that being highlighted as a growing issue within the council area or within this area that we have been trying to address. So it's good to see that that has been included in the plan. So I just wanted to thank you. It's good to see as well it being highlighted within our response that we need to be using our existing partnerships as well. They're already there, they're already established. We have really good organisations doing fantastic work. So let's not recreate the wheel, let's use what we have. And it's good to see those issues being highlighted. So thank you, Seamus, for the report.
Thank you. Are you proposing the report? Yeah. And Councillor Hutton?
I can second it as well. Chair, thank you, Seamus, for the report. And there was just one something that stood out to me in relation to the areas that are being covered throughout the three pillars, and that was oral health. And I suppose oral health has always been something that has been tackled here in the north of Ireland. At the minute, we have 44% of 5-year-olds that are exhibiting good oral health, but there's also 57% of 8-year-olds showing signs of tooth decay. So the Department of Health did introduce the Oral Health Improvement Plan for young people and the older persons Oral Health Improvement Plan. So as much as there has been strides to improve oral health throughout the population, I think there's still a lot of challenges and disparities. So I think, you know, focusing on preventative care, bringing in targeted interventions. Like at the end of the day, you don't want children under local anaesthetic or even general anaesthetic to have teeth removed. I think it's important that maybe oral health's included in there somewhere in both the living well section, Seamus, and even starting well when it comes to our young people. So as much as it is on the agenda and it has improved over time, there's still massive disparities there. And, you know, one of the big statistics is how often children miss school because of toothache, or they have to go and have teeth removed and stuff like that. So I do think it should be a priority, Seamus, if it could be included somewhere within the consultation report. And as Councillor Duffy has alluded to, the partnership working is key, but I think that it's very well stated within your response that everybody needs to be involved going forward in relation to designing and the implementation of programmes. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hutton. And I'm sure Seamus will take that forward. No other comments on this report? Happy enough? All right, then we'll move on to the next one, which is the draft consultation report to the Department of Communities on draft fuel poverty strategy. And that's Seamus again.
Chair, the purpose of the report is to make members aware of the DFC consultation on the draft fuel poverty strategy. An officer response to the consultation has also been provided for members' consideration. The draft response highlights the Council's support for the measures being proposed and also highlights additional information and measures that are deemed appropriate. And members, it's recommended you endorse the draft consultation response.
Thank you, Seamus. The first indicated speaker is online, and that's Alderman McMorris. Thank you.
Thanks very much. I'd actually indicated to come in on the last point, but you had it moved on before I got to come in on it. But just in regards to this one here, I know we can't go back. So just basically we welcome it, and you know, it's thanks Seamus for doing that. And yeah, sorry, bear with me 1 second. I've just sorry.
You all right, Nairi? Okay. Okay, we'll get a word to Nairi to make sure she's okay. The next indicated speaker is Councillor Hutton, please.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks Seamus for the report and another lengthy consultation response. And I suppose this goes hand in hand as well with the anti-poverty strategy, which Council have been working on. Pathways Out of Poverty document has been produced by Anna McGillion and the team, and it's very well laid out in relation to fuel poverty. So I think addressing energy poverty as a collaborative working piece, and it's important, although it sits with Department for Communities, it's important that all the other various organisations and sectors are involved in it. And with the Trussell figures that have been produced most recently in relation to hunger and hardship, it's really, really important that this strategy has its entitlement in itself, which will go hand in hand with the anti-poverty strategy. So thanks, Seamus, again for the report.
Thank you, Councillor Hutton. Are you proposing the report?
I'll propose.
Yeah. Next indicated speaker is Councillor Harkin online.
And thanks Seamus for the report, and thank you to Council officers as well for putting together such a comprehensive response to a very long consultation from the department with a lot of questions, asking for a lot of detail. And I think that the nature of that consultation would make it difficult, I think, for a lot of citizens to respond to without expert knowledge of all sorts of government programs and access to the type of information that is required to respond. But I think, look, the storm of the executive and departments are very good at asking people for ascertaining people's opinions, getting people's expertise, and they're short on delivery. And we know that as a council, we have disproportionate levels of fuel poverty. That's why a fuel poverty strategy is absolutely needed. But I think that what is said in the consultation about it is right, that the effectiveness of the strategy will depend on its implementation, the level of commitment, and the incorporation of a comprehensive and multifaceted approach that adequately addresses the various factors contributing to fuel poverty. That's written up as part of the Derry and Strabane District Council's response, and I think that that's the key thing, because you know, we have there's all sorts of evidence that is being given to the department, the minister, and to the executive around this. The key thing is what they end up doing. Because we could write 100 pages of responses and go into even more detail, and that could just sit on a shelf and gather dust. So I think a lot of the responses that we've included here go in the right direction. And I think it'll add to the expertise that the department is seeking. But I think that ultimately, they have the right information. It's going to come down to their ability and their willingness to actually implement a fuel poverty strategy that actually makes a dent in the disproportionate levels that we have in the district and across the north of fuel poverty. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin. So we have no more indicated speakers. We have a proposal from Councillor Hutton. Councillor Harkin, were you wanting to second that or?
I'm happy to do that.
Yep. Thank you. All right, thank you. Next up, we have the Good Relations Action Plan and funding bid to the Executive Office, and that is Barry. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. Members, this is to seek your approval on the action plan for 25-26, including the funding bid to the Executive Office. Members, you'll be aware that the Good Relations Programme budget was reduced in 23-24 by 47%. In previous years, the overall budget allocation to council was £578,635, a total of 433,976 from TO and contribution of council of just under £145,000. For this financial year, members, based on consultation with TO, we have put about a bid in for £484,373. The opening budget position for 25-26 in the Executive Office, members, has not been confirmed. You'll see within section 3, there was a number of community consultation and engagement sessions held with key stakeholders, members. There have been 14 programme initiatives to reflect the issues raised as part of the audit we've done in the last 3 years, 22-25. And members of the Good Relations Working Panel met on the 21st of January to agree the action plan. So members, this bid was submitted into TEO by the deadline in January. So in terms of recommendation, that you note the content of the report and approve the Good Relations Action Plan and funding bid to TEO for 25-26. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Barry. And first indicated speaker is Councillor Heaney.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks to Barry for the report. This is obviously really important work. So, like half of our party, I'm happy to endorse the plan, and I hope we're successful in our bid. So I'm content to propose, Chair.
Thank you. Any other indicated? Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks for the report. 3.4, the Good Relations team hosted 3 community consultation engagement sessions with key stakeholders. Was that invited stakeholders or was it an open door?
Through yourself, Chair, there was invited stakeholders, but also open as well in terms of the public.
Would it be possible to have a list of, particularly with regard to community and voluntary sector representatives or the organisations that
they send that through? Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barry. Councillor Farrell.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks, Barry, for the report. Just in terms of 3.3, where it says the Executive Office, the opening budget position has not been confirmed, and they've asked that they submit something similar to last year. Do we think there's any possibility that it could reduce? Because the wording here is that it's scalable, and that would say to me that, that it could grow. But is there the potential that the budget for this year is actually lower than last year? And if so, what do we do? Thank you.
Through yourself, Chair, that's not a question I can answer in terms of the officials. They've asked us. We've followed their guidelines in terms of putting it in. That'll be a decision for the Executive Office and other departments in terms of that. But look, we have been liaising and engaged with them regular enough, and the officer team are fairly hopeful that we will get the amount that we have submitted in. But we're just not in a position to say it at present.
Thank you, Barry. I have no other indicated speakers. Councillor Heaney has proposed the report and Councillor Boyle to second it. Okay, thank you. Update next up is for Communities public consultation on policy changes to the Fund Winter Fuel Payment Scheme, and that's Barry. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair and members. Just to update you on DFC's public consultation on the changes to Equality Impact Assessment for the Social Fund Winter Fuel Payment Scheme and to seek your approval of Council's draft consultation response. Members, you'll see in the background section that DFC is seeking views. The consultation and draft report relates to the policy changes to limit the annual winter fuel payment in Northern Ireland to pensioners in receipt of pension credit or other means tested benefits and the preliminary recommendations with regards to measures to mitigate the adverse impacts. DFC has opened an EQIA public consultation for 12 weeks and runs from the 9th of December 24 to the 2nd of March 25 for these proposed policy changes. Members, you'll recall that the Council held a special meeting in October 24 which heard from Unite the Union, Freeze the Cuts campaign and AGNI. At this meeting it was agreed to endorse the Unite the Union initiated pledge letter which was signed by all the Stormont parties calling for the reinstatement of the winter fuel payment, and that if the Westminster Government refuses to reinstate the winter fuel payment, it should be fully mitigated by the Stormont Executive. Members, you'll see in section 3.3, the EQA consultation on the winter fuel payment changes is reviewing the impact of the group set out in section 75 of the Northern Ireland Act, as the winter fuel payment is only available to people of the state pension age. Other section 75 groups are not impacted through other categories alone, however may be impacted if they fall under the age and another section 75 category, for example people with dependents. So members, in terms of the recommendation, that you note the details and the content of the report and approve the draft EQIA consultation response to DFC on the changes to the Social Fund Winter Fuel Payment Scheme. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Barry. Councillor Farrell.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks, Barry, for the report. Just very briefly, we welcome the response. We wish that we weren't in this position because we're producing this response because the new British government have taken the shameful step of removing the winter fuel payment for pensioners. The executive's response is too little, too late. It's £100, and not one pensioner across the north has received this yet. So people that were getting the winter fuel payment, which was delivered via Westminster, it was all paid by the end of January, the coldest month, and not one pensioner that's been left out has received a penny in support. So it's unfortunate that we're in this position. But I think pensioners out there who have been negatively impacted need reassurance that they're going to get this money and they're going to get it quickly, and that it's going to happen in future years, because at the minute there's a commitment to do it for 1 year only. So we need this reassurance, but excellent response, and we hope there's movement very, very quickly from Stormont. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Farrell. Are you proposing the paper? Yeah. Councillor Hutton.
Thank you, Chair, and I'm happy to second. And thank Seamus for the response as well. It's very well written and it is representative of the Section 75 groups that need representation here. As Councillor Farrell alluded to, this is all because of the cuts by the British government, and there was nothing taken into consideration in relation to who was going to be affected, how people were going to be affected, and I suppose as well the fact that we can run this for a wee bit longer and get the information we needed is very, very welcome. So just to second the proposal and thank Seamus for his response.
Thank you, Councillor Hutton. And Councillor Harkin online.
Thank you, Chair, for letting us in, and again thanks Seamus and other council officers that have worked on this response, and thanks for organising the working group meeting earlier in the week where we were able to have some input in it. And look, it is an absolute disgrace that the British government took away universal access to the winter fuel payment, and I think it was also disgraceful that the Stormont Executive went along with that. And the Stormont Executive, as we know, didn't do an equality impact assessment of the repercussions that taking away the access the winter fuel payment would have for older people and pensioners right across the north. And they're doing it belatedly because they've come under pressure to do it, because as people know, Unite is taking the British government to court on the basis that they didn't do an equality impact assessment. So I think people can see why the minister is now scrambling to have us do this consultation after the fact. And it is the case that because of campaigning, there was a partial mitigation agreed of £17 million. But as we've discovered now, not a single penny of that has been distributed to anybody who would have needed it. So this is really a fiasco, and once again, shows the contempt that Westminster and Stormont have for a lot of vulnerable people across our society. So I think it's important that we as a council have a very robust response to this consultation. And I've been encouraging other organisations and individuals to do the same as part of a campaign calling for the Stormont Executive to fully mitigate the winter fuel payment as we agreed as a council. That's our corporate position. But I think that the executive and the minister will hear loud and clear how frustrated people are about the loss of the winter fuel payment. So again, thank you to the Seamus and the council officers for making sure that the views of our residents and the council is going to be included in this consultation.
Thank you. Alderman Hossley.
Thank you for the opportunity, Chair, and like others, sincere thanks for the report, excellent report that has been produced. It's absolutely horrendous that the burden of this, is falling on the executive at Stormont as a result of a decision by our government at Westminster, aka the British government, as some people are referring to it. But could I remind some in the chamber that their representatives actually sit on those government benches? So, just be careful about it. It is a horrendous situation that has developed, and I welcome the ongoing campaign to have that restoration with my own declaration of interest. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I have no other indicated speakers, so thank you, Barry and Seamus, for all your work on that one. On the next one, End Violence Against Women and Girls Momentum Funding Consensual Action Plan for the 8 local community planning areas and Foyle Women's Aid. Barry, please.
Thanks, Chair. Members, is to seek your approval of the fund around end violence against women and girls. You'll see in the background section, members, there's £50,000 has to be spent by the end of this financial year, and a further £115,000 by the 31st of March 2026. 40,000 of the 50,000 of this year will be allocated to focus on local community planning areas to support EVA, WG on the ground issues. 7 DAs in Strabane Town will each be allocated a budget of £5,000. Also, raising awareness around this is of paramount importance, so the remaining 5,000 will be allocated to support public media campaigns and raise awareness and cover facilitation costs for events such as a town hall event, International Women's Day, and support for training initiatives. Members, council officers have engaged in a co-design process in relation to the 8 local growth partnership boards to develop an action plan via the consensual grant model. This consultation with the chairs and 8 local growth partnership boards, the strategy managers within the urban area and rapid, has helped shape the recommendations included within the consensual plan. All areas have also been asked to ensure there's a synergy with the work of the women's sector to ensure collaboration and avoid duplication. Engagement and consultation will also take place with Foyle Women's Aid and the direct on-the-ground specialist prevention support required to support those at risk of violence and abuse. In terms of the consensual approach model, that's been agreed by TAO for Tier 1 and Tier 2 of the Change Fund. Both tiers are supported and joined together again of a total budget allocation of £64,000. So each area will receive £8,000. Also, the local Change Fund Tier 3 funding for 25-26 will go live via an open call process. It's already live on the 3rd of February for a 3-week period. The funding Tier 3 will be for grants between 15,000 and 25,000. These funding awards will be for significant specialised programmes of activity, which include collaboration with and/or mentoring support to other community-based organisations. Further report will be brought to members and committee detailing the successful applicants around us. So in terms of recommendation, members, that you note the contents of the report and approve the Momentum Fund action plans received from the 8 local growth partnership boards and Foyle Women's Aid as attached in your Appendix B to J for the 24-25 financial year, including the issue of a letter of offer to the following lead groups listed in section 5.1. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Barry. It's great to see this moving fast. Things don't normally move very fast in the executive, so it's good to see so much money coming down quickly for it to be spent this year. So really welcome that report. Councillor Clark.
Can I just come in first to declare an interest, please, Chair, as a member of the Advocacy Project Steering Group?
Thank you. No, I just want to put my appreciation on record here for the funding. Obviously, I'm one of the elected reps for Ballyarnett, but I actually work in Ballyarnett too in my day job. So you see the need is there. I have the privilege of working with some excellent groups on the ground here, delivering education and training to young people, which I think is imperative to tackling this whole issue of violence against women and girls. We have to be proactive rather than reactive. So I was able to see one of the workshops that they've developed last week, and it's actually excellent, really informative, from podcasts to different types of props, workshops. And myself and Sandra and Pat Murphy just the other day helped to unveil a billboard in Galia in relation to all this. So I think it's very important that funding does come down, and we'll take any funding that we get. These are formative years for the Wains. You know, this is when you develop your relationships and your perception of relationships. So it is very important to be proactive, and we are delighted with the funding, and we'll take any more that's coming our way. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. I agree entirely. It starts when they're wee. That's why we need to be doing it 100%. Alderman Hussey.
Thanks again for the opportunity. And I think the tremendous thing about this is the fast reaction that there's been throughout the entire district council area because of the groups based in the areas that are getting the funding. And I think, you know, that what they're actually doing is adding value to the funding that is there available. And you know, I have nothing but admiration. I'm aware of some of the background work with regard to Derrick Valley Care in my own area, and I'm sure the same is reflected across all of the other growth partnership areas that are taking this forward. But let's be honest, we couldn't do this without those groups being on board, and thanks to them as well. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Alderman Hussey. I fully agree. We have no other indicated speakers on this one. So Councillor Clark proposed it. Do we have Councillor Boyle? Are you happy to second it? Thank you. So the next item for business is open for information. So I'm just going to take each report, and if you want to indicate if you want to speak on them. So number 13. Which is the update of transfer of the landlord registration scheme from the Department for Communities to District Councils. No. Number 14, licenses and permits issued under delegated authority. Number 15, XL bully breed type dogs, update and safeguarding measures. Number 16 is correspondence. Number 17 is consultation list, and number 18 is child rights. Happy days. Everyone's very quiet today. So the next thing is we're going to go into confidential. If I can have a proposer. Councillor Boggs, seconded by Councillor Boyle. So just give it a wee second to go into confidential.